Have you seen that diets keep failing you? You lose the weight, but eventually you regain it. And now you worry that you're not going to be able to lose the weight and keep it off. You're worried about failing before you even start. Well, our culture has trained us into believing that the only way to lose weight is to follow an extreme diet, and that sets ourselves up for failure. So it's not you, it's our culture. In this episode today, I'm going to be talking over why diets fail and how you can stop self-sabotaging yourself. Hi friends, and welcome to the Healthy Beyond 40 show. I'm Michelle, mom of four and military wife. I have my doctorate in physical therapy and I'm an online personal trainer, health coach, and yoga teacher. Do you wish that you had more energy and could get into shape? Do you feel like you're struggling to lose weight? Maybe you've tried a diet before, but it just wasn't sustainable, and now you don't know how to get started. We're going to look at health holistically here, and most importantly, keep things simple and quick. If you're ready to develop healthier habits, exercise consistently, and lose weight sustainably without long workouts or following strict diets, then you're in the right place. In this podcast, I bring together my expertise with real life strategies. No magic pill here, so lace up those shoes and get moving. So I'm excited for this episode today because when I talk to people, so many people have tried so many different diets only to regain the weight or possibly gain more weight back. And it's really the way we're looking at this. So when we go on a diet, it's usually very strict and restrictive. We have to make drastic changes in what we're eating, sometimes eliminating entire food groups. And it typically leaves people feeling deprived and unsatisfied. And this restrictive nature of diets tends to lead to an unhealthy relationship with food. So we're constantly thinking about what we can't eat or what we must avoid instead of listening to those internal cues in our body of when we're hungry, when we're full, and really knowing what will nourish our bodies. The other thing with diets is that what may work for someone else may not work for you. So we have different genetics. Some people metabolize fat better. Some people metabolize carbs better. We have different body compositions. So somebody who has more body fat is probably going to have a lower metabolic rate. The more muscle we have, the higher our metabolic rate is. We also have different dietary preferences. We prefer different things. So instead of focusing on short-term fixes, when we start to look at the big picture, the long term that we want for our health, then we need to start backtracking and doing habits that will get us there so that we're not just following a diet for 4 or 6 weeks, but that we're able to stick with it for years and years and really develop a healthier body. So typically people follow diets for 4 to 6 weeks and they can't stick with it. And some research shows that around 97% of dieters end up regaining the weight they lost in a span of 3 years. And these numbers vary between studies, but if you look around at different people, you probably see them doing this yo-yo dieting. They lose weight, they put it back on, that most people aren't keeping the weight off. And it's hard when we're surrounded by a culture that's telling us this is the fix to lose weight. So that's why I love my Facebook group where I'm gathering women who are ready to get healthy and lose weight in a sustainable way. So if you need a little support and encouragement along your health journey, check the podcast description below and join my Facebook group. I would love to have you there and tell me what you took away from this episode. The next thing I want to talk about is a little more into depth about why diets fail. So number one is restrictive food choices. So cutting out entire groups of food that end up leading to sometimes not eating enough, having cravings, or overindulging later. So when you cut out entire food groups, it makes it easy to lose weight because you're typically eating less, but it's not necessarily healthy or sustainable. The other thing that happens that goes with that a little bit is extremely low calorie. So when you're eating a way that severely restricts your calories, you're going to lose weight. But sometimes the negative thing that can happen is that when you're low calorie for a long period of time, your metabolic rate can slow down because your body doesn't want to starve. We used to not live in a culture that was surrounded by so much food. So our metabolic rate slows down so that we can preserve our body and preserve what we have. And sometimes when you're extremely low calorie, you're not getting the nutrients you need. Your body may not feel good. You may feel fatigued and weak, and then you can't stick to it. So you're back where you started. And sometimes when you've done something extremely low calorie, then you eat like you used to, you might even put on more weight than what you initially started with. Because sometimes when you're in that low calorie, you're going to start losing muscle mass too. And then what happens is when you go back to how you were eating before, you're putting on weight, but now you have less muscle mass. And less muscle mass means that you're burning less calories at rest. The other thing that happens with diets is skipping entire meals. So people may not eat breakfast, and for some people that might work. But the problem is when you skip a meal and then you're over hungry later and you eat way more, that you just feel that hangry sense where you just need to eat and you're going to grab what is ever near you. And it may not be a healthy option. So those are some things to look at when you're thinking about your past experiences with diets that fall into restricted food choices, extremely low calorie, or skipping meals. The next piece I want to talk about here is sort of training our mind to lose weight in our subconscious thoughts. So we have all these thoughts going through our head, and most of the time they are negative. So I want you guys to think about what you're telling yourself about weight loss. And this is something I do with my clients in my health coaching calls. And a lot of times clients aren't even noticing this negative self-talk that they're having, the way that they criticize themselves, the way that they end up sabotaging their progress because they have this negative self-talk, and then it makes it hard to keep going and be motivated. So in my health coaching, I really help to break this down with the clients, bring that awareness to it, and start to change and shift those thoughts so that when things come up, or maybe we had a weekend where we ate more than we wanted to, that we're able to get out of that negative self-talk and get right back to where we were, and really encouraging ourselves and being supportive of ourselves. And if you're a Christian, I encourage you to pray about this. If you're having some of these negative thoughts and negative self-talk that you're becoming aware of, is pray about it. Is that something Jesus would say to you? Is that something a loving friend who has compassion on you would say to you? And most of the time, it's not. So I just want to empower you to have healthy thoughts, to become aware of these thoughts, because what we think is how we act. So if we're having these negative thoughts, that is how we're going to act. And we need to shift those to having a more positive mindset to lose weight. We want to have optimistic thoughts about ourselves. We want to believe that we can do this. So many of us have failed at diets so many times that we don't even believe we can do this. So I just want to encourage you that that starts with your mind. So before you even start changing how you're eating or how you're moving, you have to shift your mind into believing that you can do this. Because maybe this time you're going to do something different. You're going to start with something that's sustainable. You're going to start with something small. And I think really having some positive affirmations that you can tell yourself. So you want an affirmation that is true. So we don't want to just think of an affirmation that's way off and we don't think it would ever be true. Maybe it's not soaked into our mind yet, but we know deep down that it's true. So maybe something like, I'm capable of making healthy choices and nourishing my bodies. I'm taking one step forward in my health each day. I'm becoming stronger and healthier. And I want you to keep the long-term goal in mind, because that's what's going to help you make your mindset a little more positive when things get hard. And another thing I like to do with clients is to help them visualize their long-term goal. And visualize when they're having a hard time and they typically go into that negative self-talk, what would they actually say if they're having compassion on themselves? And inside my nutrition course, I actually have some powerful meditations that help my clients to do this. Because when we can start to get into a relaxed state and allow ourselves to really think those true thoughts and let them soak in and make some revelations that we're not able to do, it can be really helpful to notice what we think about things and what we should think about things. So I encourage you that if you have been self-sabotaging your weight loss journey, that maybe a struggle comes up, there was a party with a lot of food, you ate more sugar, and then you end up giving up, that you can start to shift that mindset. And instead of viewing weight loss as this short-term thing that you want to lose so many pounds in a month, that you start to shift your focus to something that's sustainable, that doesn't have strict rules and nothing drastic. That way you can sustain it. That way, when things go a little out of hand, that you can just get right back to it because you're going to have forgiveness and grace for yourself, that you're not going to dwell on your mistakes and berate yourself, but instead start choosing to forgive yourself and just learn from them. Maybe you needed to be prepped for that party. Maybe you needed to eat a little protein or a little something before you went there. Maybe you needed to bring some healthy snacks with you. But when we start with an attitude of forgiveness to ourselves, it makes it a lot easier to move forward. Another thing I commonly see is people just waiting for the best time to start losing weight. Well, let me tell you, there is no perfect time to start, and you could probably keep procrastinating it for years and for decades, because I have had people who are now in their 60s talking about how they're finally ready to start taking care of themselves, that they've literally waited decades. So I encourage you to not wait for the perfect time or finding the perfect food to eat or the perfect exercise, but instead to keep it simple and just get started with some small, manageable steps. And just reach out if you need help to do this, because there is never going to be a good time. And I also hear people saying that they feel guilty about spending money on themselves, especially when it comes to weight loss or health. But I want you to shift your mindset a little bit here. I don't want you to think it as spending money on yourself, but instead investing in your health, because your health affects everything you do. If you don't have your health, you're not going to be able to do all the things in your life that you want to. So you have to think of this as an investment in yourself. And that might be money, it might be time, but you need to do it for yourself. And I continue to invest in my health each and every time by my time, also by buying healthy food. Sometimes I have worked out with other people and do things to support my health. One other way that I invest in my health is by drinking Organifi's green juice. It's not super cheap. I also don't think it's super expensive, but I have noticed a difference in my energy and how I feel. So I have my green juice almost every morning. I also typically put some collagen protein in there, and it's a really good way to start my day and also a good way to invest in myself and know that my body's getting nutrients, know that I'm getting these adaptogen herbs that they have in there that help me to feel good. So if you guys want to check out Organifi's green juice, there's a link down below in the podcast description, or you can use the code HEALTHY20 to save 20% off your first order. So hope you guys check that out. And just keep in mind that investing in your health is not a luxury, but it is a necessity. It's so much harder if we don't take care of ourselves and we end up with these chronic health conditions or medications or a bunch of doctor visits. And sometimes we can't always prevent that. But the more we take care of ourselves, the less we're going to have to deal with in the end. So view it as an investment rather than an expense. So I encourage you that if you have been on this dieting cycle and you want to eat healthy and take care of yourselves, but you really don't know how to do it because all that diet mentality is just drilled into your head, I encourage you to just set up a free health checkup call with me where we can go over what your struggles are, what your goals are, and really figure out what that next step is for you. So if you check the podcast description below, you'll see the link to set up a free health checkup. And what I do with my clients in my Wellness Breakthrough program is not only am I giving them the nutrition piece, the exercise piece, but we're also working on this mindset belief because it literally drives our actions each day. and it's often overlooked. Our health is a holistic thing. It's not one little piece. It's not just what we have for breakfast. There's so many different things, and it's so individualized. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I would love to hear from you guys about what stood out from you and what your takeaway from this episode is. So have a great week.